there, my name is Bronte Germain. I am from Orca Book Publishers, and I'm so glad to be talking to you today to highlight some of our winter and spring titles. Just as a quick reminder, Orca is an independent press. We've been going for about 40 years, publishing all sorts of juvenile titles from board book up to YA and everything in between. And we also distribute a number of independent presses who, like us, want to show the diversity of the human experience. My colleague Margaret Bryant, I've put her contact info on here. She is your main contact, and if you have anything that you need, please feel free to give either of us a shout. Okay, let's dive into the books. The first one that I'd like to tell you about is I'll Be a Chicken Too. This is a spring book, a board book for readers 2 and under. It is a board book that shows young kids that they can be whatever they want to be, and their caregiver is going to be right there along with them. It's fun and silly, but at its heart, there is a message of care and support for all the wild dreams and whims and playtimes of a young child. The text is rhyming and super bouncy, making it a really fun book to read aloud. As you can see in these images, there's a wide range of skin tones in both the adult and the kids that are represented on the pages, as well as lots of ages. So the caregiver could be a sibling, a parent, a grandparent, etc. So lots of diverse representation, which makes it a great book for a wide audience. And the animals that they talk about, that the caregiver and child are both going to be playing as, range from farm animals to animals from the ocean and the jungle. So really fun for kids to spot the various details and to read along and play along with their caregiver. Next up is We Belong to the Drum. This is a bright and joyful hardcover picture book coming out in May. It shows a Plains Cree family navigating the universal experience of starting daycare or school and being scared. We see this child, Nikosis, who spends his early years at powwows with his family and is immersed in music and dance, and that's where he feels safe and supported. But when he starts daycare, he feels like he doesn't belong, and he's scared, and he doesn't know what to do. So his mother and his teachers come together to use drums to help him find that cultural connection and comfort. So it's a great display of how important it is to provide a culturally safe and welcoming environment, specifically for Indigenous kids, which is a really great talking point for kids from any culture or background. As you can see, the book is super bright and bubbly, and that comes through in both the text and the illustration. It does include a glossary of Plains Cree terms, which are centered around kinship. And we do have a Plains Cree and English dual language edition that's going to be available simultaneously. And the third spread that you see on the page here, the biggest one, is from that dual language edition. I just wanted to point out the treatment of both languages. It's a conscious decision that the designers at Orca make when we do these dual language editions to have both languages, English and the Indigenous language, in this case Plains Cree, of equal importance, equal size, just really equal treatment, so they're both front and center to emphasize that this is a dual language edition and both of these languages are important. They're both here for a reason and they're both significant. The author of this book, Sandra Lamouche, is a Cree woman, a storyteller, and a champion hoop dancer, an award-winning Indigenous educational leader, and the illustrator, Asby Whitecalf, is an award-winning Plains Cree artist. Forever Our Home is a love song to the author's child and to all Indigenous children. This hardcover picture book was adapted from a lullaby that Tanya wrote for her newborn son, and that love and care shines through so clearly in the lyrical language of this book. The text conveys a very powerful message of reconciliation and reclamation of the prairie land, and it reads as a very melodic and soothing lullaby that connects the reader to the natural world. And we will be publishing it simultaneously in a dual language edition in Plains Cree and English. Throughout the book, we hear a Cree parent describing the prairie wildlife to their child and reaffirming that this is their home, this is where they belong, welcoming them to their traditional Plains territory and teaching them all about the sacred ancestral connection that they have to the land. They touch on different animals that live there with them, the deer, the hawk, the eagle, the horse. They link them to different sounds that they'll hear in this land, like the Song of the Coyote, which you can see illustrated in this beautiful spread, bees buzzing and chickadees singing. as well as the plants that exist in this ecosystem: tiger lilies, sage, sweetgrass, and red willow. So it's very deeply rooted in this prairie landscape. And I could not resist putting in a third spread because it's so stunning. The artwork in this book is absolutely beautiful. It was done by Carla Joseph, who's a Cree illustrator, and she actually was the illustrator on our Spring 22 title, Be a Good Ancestor, which has been really widely praised for being so beautifully illustrated. The author of this book, Tanya Simpson, is Scottish and Cree and was born and raised in central Alberta. She's a member of the Pasqua First Nation. And as I mentioned before, we have a dual language edition publishing simultaneously, and that will be in Plains Cree and in English. Next up is a very special book from one of our distributed publishers, Second Story Press. Second Story published books centered around feminism, diversity, and empowerment, and this is a great example of that. It's a very moving story about the vastly underrepresented subject of transracial adoption. V in V in Between is a young girl adopted from China into a white North American family. Although her parents are very loving and always encourage her interest in her Chinese culture, they can't prevent the microaggressions from the world around her that make V question her worth. And when V joins Chinese dance classes, she suddenly feels like she's also not Chinese enough. Stuck between two worlds, she isn't sure where she fits, and it's only with love and support from her dance instructor Kai Yang and her parents that V learns to feel empowered living in between. This story is representative of the experience of the author, Valerie Kai-Yang Wood, who actually wrote this book as part of a thesis project for her master's degree in public history. She wanted to share her story with the world and to connect to other transracial adoptees and show them that this experience, this way of being, these complicated feelings are not unique, that lots of people in these situations feel this way, and that it's okay to feel this way, to struggle with that feeling of not belonging, to feel like you're in limbo. But that in-between space is exactly where Valerie found her strength, and in this book, it's exactly where V ends up flourishing as well. The story is so moving, it's so empowering, and ultimately it's so joyful, helped along by these absolutely beautiful and very sweet illustrations by Angela Poon. I think it's a really important one to get into the hands of kids, and we're really excited about it. Billy and Bean at the Beach is written and illustrated by Swedish author-illustrator Julia Hansen, and this book centers around a little girl, Billy, and her dog Bean on a day at the beach, as Billy works up the courage to go into the water. So we see Billy take a chance, hit a setback, and ultimately rally to try again. And we are encouraged to try new things at our own pace. So rather than being a book about pushing through no matter what, it's about Billy finding a space where her curiosity can come alive. It's so healthy. It's a great SEL title. And on top of that, it has beautiful illustrations. Here are some of them. As you can see, Billy is super expressive, and so is her dog Bean. He's so funny. He loves the beach, and Billy does not care for it at first. Her mother is around to support her, and the story does a fabulous job of showing us what it is like when someone is given space to move at their own pace. The author really wanted to portray a child that's a bit hesitant and not necessarily interested in a new adventure, but who ultimately has a really meaningful experience. And I really love that the ocean looks a bit scary in these illustrations, but also like it's really peaceful and it's a secret world of wonder. And that is exactly what Billy finds when she gets the courage up to go beneath the waves again. She finds this world where everything is fascinating and her curiosity really alights. So I think it'll make kids curious about the ocean and what they can find there. It's a really good STEM tie-in as well as SEL. Waking Ben Doldrums is a thoughtful and whimsical book that digs into how to be part of a community and how to help out your loved ones when they are very, very tired, i.e. depressed through the eyes of a child. In this book, we meet a group of neighbors who are living in the same building and who have developed a very unique morning alarm system that they all participate in by knocking on the walls, using a broom to smack the ceiling and stomping on the floor. And one morning, Ben is not feeling up to participating. So our protagonist narrator is the young girl who you see on her father's shoulders, and she's determined to figure out what is up with Ben and how to get him back into the system. And in the end, she does find a way to make his daily life a little easier so that he can participate in the community that holds him up. It's a very beautiful reflection of a modern urban living situation with this one house divided into four different units, and where the residents have become a sort of found family. And the diversity of the folks who live in this house is marvelous. You can see it represented on the front cover. There's a queer couple, a single parent and child, a young student, which is Ben Doldrums, and a young family. There's so many fun details to catch in this illustration. It makes it a great bedtime read. The author is Heather Smith. Heather is the award-winning author of The Phone Booth in Mr. Hirata's Garden, as well as A Plan for Pops, Ebb and Flow, Chicken Girl, and more. And the illustrator, Byron Eggenschweiler, illustrated The Little Ghost Who Was a Quilt, The Strangest Thing in the Sea, Operatic, Coyote Tales, and much more. And his style, as you can see from these spreads, is very subtle, but very compelling. It really draws you in, and the details are just beautiful. No Horses in the House is the fictionalized biography of Rosa Bonheur, who is a French artist who built a career as a painter when a woman was not allowed or encouraged to do so. So what we see in this book is a young girl who, through pure determination and steadfast dedication to her passion, makes a name for herself, as Rosa did. Rosa, in the heyday of her career, was the most celebrated artist in France. Pretty incredible story. And we see that determination in the pint-sized character of Rosa in this lovely book. At its heart, it's a tale of empowerment. It will show kids that while they may feel small in a big world, they can do whatever they dream if they work hard at it. It's also not touched upon in the book, but Rosa was an openly gay woman her whole life, at a time when, again, she was definitely not encouraged or allowed to do so. So just some more powerful representation. And the author, Mireille Messier, has written numerous books in both French and English, including the 2019 Orca book, Treasure. And this book is going to be simultaneously released in French. And the illustrator, Anna Braun, you may know from the award-winning book, Sama the Syrian Chef. Swept Away is a paperback chapter book for ages 9 to 12. This is from DCB, that's the kids' imprint of Cormorant Books, so another of our distributed publishers. And in this book, we have this fantastic Nancy Drew style sleuthing mystery, where the main character's neighbor has died under suspicious circumstances and left lots of clues for her to investigate and find out what happened. She also, the character in the book, is a huge reader, so there's lots of really fun Easter eggs for a bookworm to catch as they're reading, references to classical children's literature and much more. There's also this fantastic cover, and the clues that the protagonist finds are all in the cover. So when they're done reading the book, you can go back and find all the clues. It is written in a way that will allow it to become a series, so that is in the process of being worked on. And it's just a really great mystery, a sort of modern Nancy Drew, as I said, for 9 to 12. The Unlovable Alina Butt is a middle grade novel that features Alina, who is an 11-year-old Pakistani girl who's moved around a lot, but now in 6th grade has decided to finally reinvent herself at this new school. She's going to try out for the school play. She's going to fit in, and she's going to be liked. And as you can imagine, her plan does not quite go the way that she anticipated. But ultimately, with lots of help from her mom, Alina has to learn to love herself. So the themes in this one are self-acceptance, bullying is explored, self-confidence. It is a fantastic debut novel that mirrors the lived experience of the author, who herself moved around a lot as a young girl. It's a really funny and sweet story. And it has been optioned by a production company for a possible TV series, so we can keep our eyes and ears open for that. Like a Hurricane is a middle grade novel in verse that is all about coming out, the coming out experience of a young boy. He's very anxious about telling his family and friends that he's gay. The story, as I said, is told in verse. It has a really unique typographical treatment that really brings the feelings of this experience to life. And the author, Jonathan Bécotte, has written several award-winning books for young people. And the original version of this was written in French. It was nominated for a Governor General's Award in 2021. These are just some spreads to show you some of the typographical treatment. I mean, it's very visually striking. It's also very accessible. The page layout makes it very easy to read. There's not much text on each page, but that treatment just means that the expressions, the feelings really come through. The novel kind of transcends this theme of coming out and is a really beautiful reflection on self-esteem and self-affirmation. The narrator in this case, unlike many coming out stories, is very confident in the fact that he's gay. He's very sure about it. He knows who he is. The problem is just letting that secret out into the world. And that is reflective of the author's own coming out experience. It's very genuine, it's very powerful, and it's very heartfelt. Are We Having Fun Yet is the newest in the Orca Timeline series, which explores how big ideas have shaped humanity, and it looks at the human desire to have fun. So young readers will get lots of information from this book, all sorts of interesting facts, plus specific examples of how humans had fun from ancient times to today. The organization of the book is not one smooth chronological timeline. Instead, it's grouped by topics such as fine art, sport, leisure, play for kids, play during war. It's really intuitive organization and really engaging. Play is very important to healthy brain development in children, as well as their social and emotional learning. And so the information is going to be enjoyable for kids. They're going to learn a lot, and they're going to be motivated to go back out and play. The previous book in this series, Why Humans Build Up, was praised for its inventive organization and layout. And we do see those same strengths in Are We Having Fun Yet? I mentioned before the organization of the chapters is very intuitive. It's also engaging. The illustrations and the photos are really dynamic and keep the reader engaged in the content. The author of this book is an award-winning nonfiction writer. She was the managing editor at Owl magazine for 5 years and now works as a freelance writer, editor, and contributor to Owl and CBC Kids. Billy Buckhorn and the Book of Spells is from 7th Generation, which is an imprint of book publishing company that focuses on Indigenous voices. This is the first in a new series, a supernatural action series from prolific writer and documentarian Gary Robinson. And this is the story of Billy Buckhorn, who survives being struck by lightning but is left with extraordinary visions and psychic insights. He receives a message from his deceased grandmother from beyond the grave and realizes that his supernatural powers can be used to help defeat this lurking ancient evil that is threatening the Cherokee Nation. So, as I said, supernatural action thriller, the first in this series. It features Cherokee healing, mythology, terminology throughout, so it's a great snapshot into Cherokee culture, and the author, Gary Robinson, is Cherokee and Choctaw. So it's quite a thrilling first installment in this YA series. The last title I will tell you about today is Visions of the Crow, which is the first in a new graphic novel series called Dreams. This is from our distributed publisher, Portage in Maine, their kids imprint, Highwater Press. And it is a fascinating graphic novel. It reminded me of a graphic novel version of Eden Robinson's Trickster series. It's a coming-of-age story that follows a Métis protagonist who's learning to control the gift of vision that he has received out of the blue. And the series overall will follow his growth and evolution as he matures to be a community leader. Protagonist Damon Quinn is trying to get through his senior year. His mother is struggling with alcohol addiction. He's got bullies at school and a new girl who will not leave him alone. And out of nowhere, a mysterious crow starts following him everywhere. He is seized by a waking dream in the middle of a busy street, and after that experience is forced to confront his mom with some hard questions that will start him on a journey of self-discovery. So it's serious, it's intense, it's a beautiful examination of Indigenous cultural connection as a path to healing the lasting impacts of residential schools. We've seen those. It's a hot topic of conversation in Canada, ongoing, and I know that it's a topic of conversation in the US as well. Intergenerational trauma, PTSD, addiction. These are serious topics, and they're tackled in a really nuanced and beautiful way in this graphic novel. The author, Wanda, is a Cree writer. This is her first graphic novel, and the artist, Nicole Marie Burton, is a founding member of the Ad Asta Comic Publishing Collective. So that is it from me. Thank you so much for your attention as I went through these titles. If you would like to read more, know more about any of them, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself or Margaret, and we will be so happy to get you material. Thank you again.